When it comes to exploration, the metroid-vania never fails to scratch that itch, filling out a large map, unlocking secret chambers concealing treasure, and learning the lore of the land. But like a fine wine with cheese, a good story and fleshed out characters make the journey way more satisfying. Today's selection is Rusted Moss, developed by Faxdoc, Happy Squared, and Sunny Days. Hello, I'm GalicEnder, and welcome to the first official rebranded episode of Indie Shelf, formerly known as Ender Reviews. This show now focuses on giving spoiler-free reviews on indie games specifically, and what a perfect title for today's debut. So, without further ado, let's swing on into the world of Rusted Moss. Rusted Moss starts off vague and to the point. You play as Fern, waking up in the middle of a random field with a little shadow ball hovering right next to you. His name is Puck. He tells you to wake up and to get moving because they will be looking for us. Also, we should go to the person called the Seer and bring her any pieces of titania we find. Cool. Like most situations in life, I have no idea what's going on. Continuing on our trek of ignorance, we learn the basic movements of running, jumping, ledge grabbing, and shooting. We then encounter our first NPC, Maya. The interaction between them reveals that Fern blew up the lab, and she and Maya were part of this group called the Coalition. Supposedly, Fern blew up the lab out of spite, and Maya questions why she would do such a thing after all the years she treated her like a sister and stood up for her after Fern had been mistreated by the others. She then sicks her robot pet on you, thus starting the first boss battle. Once defeated, we encounter the first fairy, spelled like this. She is very grateful for you freeing her from that metal prison and rewards you with a spell to help you along your journey, the ability to transform Puck into a grappling hook. This is the main gimmick of Rusted Moss. The grappling hook will be your best friend, helping you cross gaps, avoid enemy attacks, and reach new heights that seem impossible at first glance, and lead you to many, oh so many deaths. There is a catch. The hook works on portal rules, meaning it will only attach to certain surfaces. Only the surfaces covered in rusted moss can the grappling hook grip onto. Anything else will just cause it to bounce off. There are a couple exceptions like these rings, glowing fairies, and enemies, though I guess if you look at their sprites closely enough, they look kind of mossy. But anything else? Nada. As we continue on our dark adventure, we encounter a couple new characters who lay down more context to our current situation and the history of the world. In this universe, there are two types of beings, the Fae and the humans. Every few centuries, the forces of power swap between man and the Queen of the Fae, Titania. We are witnessing the transition of said power. Fern is acting as the force of change, as she vows to restore Titania to her former glory and end the age of man. But wait a second. Every Fae we've encountered up to this point kinda looks like a cyborg or a fairy. Fern appears to be human, so why is she siding with the Fae? Well, Fern is known as a changeling, basically half human and half Fae. And due to her mistreatment in the lab, she has grown quite spiteful against the human race, having her morals align more to her Fae roots. So now that we've been given our heritage lesson, let's go and destroy the disease that is mankind. Rusted Moss checks all the boxes of a classic metroid-vania. The first is a vast world to explore, containing different settings, each unique to one another, while also weaving themselves into the story in the forms of environmental storytelling and discoverable characters that provide more context to the land and overall plot. The art direction for each area shows its own form of beauty, from the mountains that rain cherry blossoms to the depths of an abandoned ichor refinery. The world of Rusted Moss explodes with personality no matter where you are. With great beauty also comes great challenge. Every area has its own trials to keep exploration and platforming fresh in the form of hazards, altered physics, or interactable forces that could either aid or surprise Fern in her venture. Hidden rooms and platforming challenges really make you think outside the box as you toy with the grappling hook and physics to scale walls and bottomless pits, using your grapple to slingshot you to a floating island or a well-timed rocket jump to give you the boost you need. You can also put your speed to the test by completing timed climbing challenges offered by NPCs. Completing any one of these tasks will net you a new item or upgrade. These upgrades can increase your health, magic, and storage space. Items come in the form of trinkets, which allow you to modify Fern's attributes to fit your playstyle or adapt to a new situation. My favorite is the Lucky Flower. This item gives the random chance of enemy bullets turning into harmless flowers, providing a much needed advantage in combat. Speaking of combat, Rusted Moss provided a greater challenge than I was expecting. Enemies consist of man-made robots or these possessed demon children. They pack one hell of a punch. and each area has their own unique enemies to keep you on your toes. Then there's the boss fights. These are the best, worst thing that RM has to offer. Every boss battle is approached differently in terms of combat. Sometimes it's as simple as fighting head on, and other times you have to search for generators to turn on the lights, exposing the monster's greatest fear. Rusted Moss is very confident in its approach towards boss battles, willing to experiment with new ideas and change how we see combat, resulting in some of the most engaging and creative combat I've seen in a 2D platformer. But goddamn, these boss fights are hard. Some of these took me about 2 hours to beat, and I've never been so hell-bent on beating a boss before. The same could be said about some of the platforming challenges, and I was going to go on a huge rant about player to dev skills, and then I saw the devs retweeting videos of speedrunners playing, and I just came to the conclusion that I just need to get good. But yeah, amazing boss fights. But what about Fern's method of self-defense? Well, aside from her insane mobility with her grapple hook, super jump, and power-bending friendship bracelet, she is also strapped with a ton of firepower, consisting of a railgun with a meaty charge shot, the auto pistol that launches saw blades, a shotgun that fires 2 consecutive blasts with the first shot giving Fern a small burst of speed, the rocket launcher that's just as good for platforming as it is for self-defense, the sniper rifle that deals incredible damage but also requires magic to use, and finally there's the bolt charger, a weapon that fires an insane amount of shells in a consecutive burst, dealing massive damage, but has a lengthy charge time. All of these weapons are hidden throughout the game's world, so make sure you check every nook and cranny. Which shouldn't be too hard, as the map is detailed excellently, with thick borders that show you areas you haven't explored, and is color-coded by location. However, I do wish there was some form of marking system, as certain rooms contain interactions that have to be dealt with later down the line, and trying to remember where they are specifically, especially when you fill out more of the map, gets to be pretty daunting. Also, with backtracking, I never felt too annoyed with the process. The different areas you explore feel like the perfect size, so you don't feel like you're going back and forth for too long in one area. And the map is littered with teleporters, making getting across the world as simple as pressing a button. The story of Rusted Moss is an emotional roller coaster that deals with many relatable elements, such as sibling love, trust in your friends, trauma, the beginning of the end, and so much more. As you get to learn more about Fern's backstory and how the cruelty of others shaped her and the world around you, you will begin to question the morals of what Fern is trying to achieve. Is Fern just acting out of anger towards the people that mistreated her and Puck, or just following the cycle of nature, being a part of the end of mankind's era? Learning more about her and the Fae through computer logs and lore stones begs the question of why they can't make a world where both races can live in harmony. It's also an interesting standpoint playing as the character who wants to end the reign of man, when in most cases it's the opposite. Nevertheless, I found the story of Rusted Moss as gripping as the gameplay, and plan to start a second playthrough with the hopes of discovering more details I might have missed the first time around. Rusted Moss was the indie experience I have been craving for quite some time, with its bold approach to platforming relying mostly on the grapple hook to swing across gaps, slingshot up cliff sides, and avoid enemy fire. Every area offered new surprises with hazards that expressed their individuality, and putting my grappling skills to the test so I could get that sweet trinket or health upgrade. Despite lacking a couple of quality of life features like a map marker, the UI was very well made and easy to understand. Combat was as engaging as it was challenging, as you had to mix and match trinkets to get an advantage on the boss you were fighting, and make the most of your tools to scale the environment and exploit their weaknesses. The story made me think about the morals of life and peace between two different species, and how treating others could shape them into something beautiful or a monster. I highly recommend Rusted Moss to any metroid-vania fan or a person looking for a new challenge and engaging story. This game is truly a gem. Thank you so much for watching the first official episode of Indie Shelf. I'll see you guys soon. Bye! Hello, and thank you so much for watching all the way to the very end. That really means a lot to me. This was Rusted Moss, by far one of the best indie experiences I've had in a long time, and it was so freaking hard. I think this game took me about 20 hours to beat, which was way longer than I was expecting, which is why the gap between the last archives and this one was a bit long, because usually these indie reviews don't take too long, but dang, Rusted Moss really pushed my skills, which, you know, I enjoyed. I thought it was great. I loved it all the way through. Despite how irritating it was with the challenge, I loved it. It was great. But A couple updates. Game Bracket 4 is in production with 2000 Shooters Remastered. I will be releasing teaser trailers with the contestants like I did for the third episode. The reason why it's been put off for a little bit is because I wanted to get a couple upgrades for my computer first, and the parts will be in tomorrow, so we'll get to work on that and we'll start recording. And who knows? I'm very excited to show you guys the contestants. I think it'll be a very interesting one, especially since this episode involves all AAA titles. That is the one hint I will give you. So those of you that watched all the way to this point, you're welcome. You get a little sneak peek or a little spoiler. I don't know what to call it. I'm tired. I've been editing really late at night, and I should probably sleep more. But I wanna get this stuff done so you guys can have something cool to watch. But I will talk to you guys soon. Stay awesome. Bye.